Hello and welcome to Kutti Stories with Ash, brought to you by Peter England and travel partners Thomas Cook. Today's guest on the show will be cliche if I said doesn't need any introduction. I have to do that. But he's played several roles in my career itself. He's been a player, he's been a colleague, he's been a coach, been a mentor, maybe an elder brother. Welcome on the show, Rahul.
Thanks,
Thank you
Ash.
for doing
Lovely,
this.
lovely to be here. Yeah, so I've heard so many stories about this show. Uh,
Okay,
and
tell me
yeah.
what story you've heard. Kutti Stories is with Ash, and what is the story that you've heard?
Uh, I've said that I've heard that it's one of the toughest interviews people have ever done. which
That's not
knowing,
true.
which
That's
know.
not true. Have you had a chance to watch any of them?
To be very honest, not really, Ash. I
Okay,
haven't really watched too many.
that is
I'm
why.
not a huge, yeah, not a huge consumer of content
Right.
on stuff. But I know that it does well, and people do really are very appreciative, I think, of the work that you've done with it. And
Generally, you have
it's
not.
not an easy thing.
You were not very appreciative when I was a player along with you, but now, but I would like to begin somewhere. So there are, like I told you, there are 3 rounds, which is a duty for me to tell you.
Okay.
Reminisce with Ash, where we'll talk revealing stories.
Right.
Then it's a gentleman's league question, of course. No better than the one sitting in front of me to justify a gentleman. And then DRS with Ash, like I briefed you off camera. And finally, there's a free hit. I'm not sure how many free hits you took as a batter, but you can take
I would have liked a few more free hits. I wish there was more.
So,
I would have needed the free hits, I think.
right, okay, let's just dig in, Rahul. We'll start with Reminisce with Ash. My first question is, through the IPL this year, you were hobbling around. Okay, you have 3 cricketers in your house, 2 young ones, and a senior statesman. When you were batting on 28, unfortunately, you had to retire out. So, a coach or a player, is there a player still left in you somewhere?
I thought it was gone. I thought it was gone, to be very honest. But yeah, I guess I kind of got dragged into that third division league game because they were short of players in a semi-final, and I paid the price for it because I hadn't really, I think hadn't really trained or hadn't really looked after myself. Well, I have, but it's different, and I think actually to answer your question, no, Ash. I think in so many ways I've moved on from being a player. Uh, I don't really consider myself a player anymore. It's been what has it been? It's been nearly 13, 14 years now since I, you know, left international cricket and played a year of the IPL when I left international cricket as well. But that's been 13 years, and I've done a lot of other things now in these 13 years. So in a lot of ways, it's I've kind of moved on from being a player, and I don't really see myself as a player anymore. It's you're doing other things, you're doing different things, which are really exciting in the moment. They are keep you engaged, they keep you involved, you keep learning and growing from them. So, to be very honest, yeah, of course, people do bring it up at times, and people bring up your career. But for me, in a lot of ways, I don't really see myself as a player. If people ask me, what do you do? I almost say that like I'm a cricket coach or a retired player or something like that.
A retired player. I mean, it's a season of retirements, always. So I just want to dwell upon that a little bit. Not going to ask you or put you on the spot about the retirements that have happened, but you were a coach of the Indian team before these retirements happened. Is there a time as a player that hit you very sharply, where you said, "Okay, I'm done"? Because the series before you retired, you had a wonderful series in England. Then you played in Australia. You came back and you retired. Does it happen like instantly, like it happened for me, or is it planned?
Uh, yeah, when I dropped the catch of your bowling, Michael Hussey at MCG.
I remember.
One of the most easiest catches I've ever dropped in my life, and I mean, I was, I think nothing hurts me more than used to drop catches. I think like through my career, yeah, of course you felt bad when you got out, but when you dropped catches, that really hurt because you just felt for the bowler who was really striving and working hard, and I can still remember that, man. I know there are a lot of things from my career I don't remember, but I can still remember dropping. It was, and I think maybe I don't think that was the moment, but I think you just know, right? I think I just knew at that stage that it was time to move on. Um, I knew actually at the end of that series. It's just that I didn't want to take an emotional decision at that point of time. I thought, let me just, if this is my feeling and this is what I'm thinking at this point of time, let me actually. There was no cricket after that in
For a
terms
while,
of
yeah.
Test cricket, and I said, let me go back home and actually spend 3 weeks in my house and and be very sure that this is not an emotional decision, but this is a decision that is, uh, that I'm sort of, I'm clear about. And yeah, I mean, I actually went home and spent 2-3 weeks with the family, and I was there, and I realized that I don't want to go back and play. And I could see a lot of young players coming through, right? I think, at that time, people like Virat and Rohit. Virat had just had a great series. Rohit actually hadn't played a test match in that particular game. Puji had actually got some runs, but was coming back from an injury, his ACL. Rahane was doing really well. So there was this 4-5 group of guys coming through at that point of time, and I could clearly see that they were going to be the next generation of young Indian cricketers, and I felt I had done my time. We'd done my time. I felt I'd played as much as I could, taken the team as far as I could, and then I obviously losing 4-0 in England and then losing 4-0 in Australia doesn't help, right? Because then you think, as a senior player, if you're not really able to make a contribution there, then you kind of think it's time to move on, and yeah, it's like not as dramatic as the way you did it, but no, I think I'm interesting for you. I mean, for me to ask, what about you? How did you sort of feel? Did it?
No, I think it's just the time where I stood in my life, Rahul. I think I was like pretty old, must admit. But going on tours and having to just sit out a lot more, it just eventually got to me. I feel. I mean, not in terms of not wanting to contribute to the team, but like you're in a place where you're thinking, okay, would I rather be at home, spending time with children? They're also growing up, and what am I actually doing? So I just felt like, okay, in my head, I'd always decided that I would retire by 34, 35.
Right.
But just the fact that I couldn't play a lot in between.
I'm glad you didn't, because I really enjoyed having you on the side and playing. And but yeah, like I think exactly like you. I think you just kind of seem to know. I think there are other things that happen. You grow up. You've done this for such a really long time, and I think at the end, I think tours. I don't know for you, but the tours get tougher and tougher, right? Because you've been to the same places and you've been to the same grounds, which were at one point of time iconic for you, and they're still iconic. Don't get me wrong, but it's the second tour, it's the third tour, it's the fourth tour. So SCG doesn't feel the SCG of the first tour, right? It's different, and that's natural, I think. So yeah, for me, I think at that time I just knew it was time to move on.
Like you said, I tell people, tell my wife, tell my parents sometimes that when you do visit these places, SCG or MCG, whatever it might be, sometimes being there in a certain situation and withdrawing yourself away, giving yourself a break from the whole environment can trigger your passion once again to come back. There's been a lot of stories talked about you as a player, and I watched you as a player so much, but I still want to shift to the next part of your career. As a coach, have you ever felt that you withdrawing from the game for a while after a player enabled you to come back with equal amount of zest and passion?
Yeah, I think actually I got some good advice, and it was Kapil Dev who gave me this advice. So I was finishing my career, and he, I just happened to bump into him somewhere, and we were having a conversation, and Kapil Paji told me, he said, Rahul, don't make a decision on what you want to do straight away, right? You obviously, as you're getting close to the end and you finished, you think, oh, what next? What should I do? Because it's just in natural nature, right? You can't, the way we are, we don't want to be just sitting at home. You want to be contributing. You want to be doing things. And he said, don't commit to something unless you're very sure. Don't commit to something. Experience a lot of different things for a few years, and then see what it is that you really like. And I was actually quite lucky because I was playing for Rajasthan at that point of time, and in that sort of after Shane Warne left, the second and the third year of my career with Rajasthan Royals, I was actually playing the role of almost like a coach captain, so to speak. That was the kind of system at Rajasthan in those days. You didn't really appoint a coach, so to speak. And Warne led the team and sort of did a lot of the things around it. And I sort of just continued in that over the next couple of years. Of course, I had support people around me. I involved Paddy in the system. Zubin was always around. Monty was there, I think, in those days. But a lot of it fell on you as a captain, right? You kind of had to lead. You had to do the auction. You had to understand the dynamics of the finances. And so in a lot of ways, I was lucky that I got that opportunity at the back end of my career to sort of get involved in a lot of these things. And it sort of gave me an inkling of for 2 months as to what coaching and working with young players was like. And then the rest of the time for the next, I was sort of doing bits of commentary and, I was doing other corporate speaking, or I was doing some of the sponsorship work that I was involved in. So for like 2 or 3 years, I got to choose, and I did quite a few different things, and kind of realized that, I till I was fit, and obviously coaching is now again something that you have to be fit for, and you can't really it's not something that you can keep doing forever. That it was this thing I enjoyed the most. I definitely enjoyed coaching and working with people, and sort of engaging in interesting conversations, and growing and learning from those. I think was something that I really enjoyed. And then I said, okay, let me then try and balance that out with the life I want to lead as well. I think that's the tough part. I think even I thought the advantage of being involved in things like media, for me, was you get to pick and choose your life, right? So the thing with being a cricketer is that you don't set your own calendar. And I was always a sense of frustration for me as my family started growing up, right? And I think you'll
So
understand
you
that.
love the liberty of saying no to people.
Yeah, I think like, and at times, sometimes at very, like, things that are really important, and I think this is where kind of things, and you'll resonate with that now, I'm sure, as you have two young girls growing up, and when they have a play in school, right, or they have a performance in some place, or there's a parent-teacher meeting. If you're a cricketer, you can't say no to, I'm not touring Australia because my children have a play. But as a media person, you can actually have that luxury, because if you're lucky enough, you can say, okay, I'll do first test. You can almost look ahead. You can say, I'll do the first and second test, but I can't do the third and fourth test. Or and if you don't sign a contract with someone, which I didn't, I actually got to pick and choose what I wanted to do. And there were many tours early on where I just did the test matches, or like for the 2015 World Cup, I only came for the semi-final and the final. So there was a lot of picking and choosing which I could do as a commentator or as a media person. But again, the moment you get into coaching, you again lose that flexibility, right? Again, as a coach, it's not easy to, it's not possible, especially if you've taken up assignments like the India coaching or even an under-19 coaching. If there's an under-19 tour, then there's an under-19 tour. So that was the hard part for me. I think that's actually been the hardest part. And I love the freedom after I retired of just being able to pick and choose things. But then when I had to pick and choose and decide what I really wanted to do, till I could do it, until people wanted me to do it and not sack me from jobs. After a season like this, you never know what might happen. but I felt this was something that kept me connected with the game, and I felt invested in it more than I did, say, in the media work. I liked it. Don't get me wrong. I loved it. I enjoyed the commentary. It's a really good thing to be on the ground, and you get to work with your friends and colleagues, and you get to call a good game, and you get to see a good game of cricket. So it's really nice. Don't get me wrong, but this was something that, like, really, you could get up in the morning excited about doing this, and that's for me.
I have a very intriguing question about broadcasting. Saurav Ganguly, from your generation, hasn't really taken to broadcasting. Sachin Tendulkar doesn't seem to be interested. Obviously, he's not. It's not his cup of tea. I'm not making judgments, or I'm not saying why they're not doing it. VVS Lakshman is in the NCA, not doing any broadcasting work. You tried a bit, but you didn't go with it. But several of the other cricketing nations, let's say England or Australia, they've got a Nasser Hussain, Michael Atherton, Ricky Ponting, Shane Warne was doing it. David Warner is now into the comm box. Doesn't it add a great interface between the game and the audience? Haven't we actually lost out on people like you being behind the mic and cut out a little bit of usual cliches that we hear in the comm box?
I was hoping that you would say, hey, by being involved in Indian cricket in under-19 and NCA,
No,
like me and Lakshman.
No, that can wait, Rahul. We can talk about that, but this is something.
So that's actually a benefit, that rather than being in a comm box. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I really admire the work that some of these people do. Right. I mean, all these commentators, all of these names that you mentioned, and people that you mentioned, and there are so many Indian commentators who've been around and have called the game and have enriched the game, and of course, it's terrific, and they do that. But anything that you do is, I think you've got to love what you do. I think that's the one thing that I've.
Is it the competition maybe that you guys are missing?
In terms of
competing, you can't compete in the comm box. You can just call the game, because all of you have been fierce competitors on the field.
It's not. I don't miss the competition. I mean, I love. You put the word. I love that you feel with it, right? You feel connected with the game when you are a coach. The results matter. right? When you win a game, you're with a group of people and it matters. When you lose, it hurts, right? Seasons like this, or it hurts. You're always constantly thinking about how you can get people better. Sometimes I felt like when you're commentating is that, and at times you have to be. And I think that one of the jobs of being a commentator, and I think the good commentators, the ones, I think are ones who can actually be neutral. They can actually, the result, they're not fans of India, or they're not fans of England, or they can't be fans of course, they might have their biases and they might want to support a particular team because they play there or they know the people there, and you have those biases. But you actually got to be very, in the sense, sort of neutral about the result, and you got to call it as you see it, and you got to call the game, and and I think people should respect that. I think sometimes I find that commentators get unfairly criticized at times for being saying, "Oh, he's not supporting the country that much." It's not his job. I mean, his job is to, honestly, his job is to call a game of cricket, and that's why he's been there to call a game of cricket. And they have to be neutral in a lot of sense, and that's different from coaching, right? In coaching, I'm not neutral. I'm very desperate for the team that I coach to win, or the players that I work with to succeed. So I like that part of it. I think I like that sometimes being a commentator and not having a skin in the game, so to speak, maybe it was a bit tough. And
skin in the game is the right word, I guess. You don't have, I mean, you just need to call a game. I mean, I would do it all the time. Like, you want to call a game, you get to watch a game of cricket free. I mean, you get to travel. Yeah. Everything is, you can't ask for a better life than that.
Yeah, but again, if I can just throw this back to you at times, I've always really found this interesting. I mean, it was slightly different to me in my career. You're talking a lot about my career after being a player. While I was a player, actually, I kind of struggled with doing many different things, or being, in a sense, I just played the game and I just wanted to play the game and I loved it. And I struggled with doing a lot of different things. With you, I think what I've seen incredibly is that you've been able to do a lot of different things, right? I know you're very involved with, the teams that you run in Chennai. You're very involved with young players. This is a channel that you do with a lot of success. You constantly commenting on games. You're able to, in a lot of ways, balance a lot of things, and I have to ask Preeti whether you're balancing the house as well. But I'm sure.
But I mean, if I'm not here, she'd probably say I'm great at that as well. But since I'm here and she's also here, she'd probably agree with you.
I've seen you with your kids and stuff, and you're brilliant there as well. But like for you, in that sense, is how you manage that. I mean, I found that quite fascinating, because you've never let your cricket. Obviously, your cricket, the performances in your cricket have never dipped, right? I mean, right, even through the back end and the end of your career, you've been able to maintain standards. You've kept yourself relevant, which is again something I wanted to ask you about as well, is that ability to keep yourself relevant as the format has changed. Everyone keeps saying 2020 cricket is changing, and it's changed a lot, and you still manage to be relevant in it and be very successful at it, and people see great value in what you bring to a team over the years, right? People have dipped and gone. But yeah, just for you, managing a lot of these things, has it been...
So actually, always very interesting story when I started first. Like, I used to play a lot of tennis ball cricket, which I'm sure you're aware of. And one fine day, as I was growing successful, all these guys wanted to play cricket ball. They said, we want to go and play on a ground. Why don't you take us and all? So I started coaching them first. And it used to be a lot of fun all that. Because, I mean, their legs would move in different directions, bat would move in different directions. But it gave me a very incisive step into what I can do to my own game. It kind of liberated me from thinking mainstream. I understood that teaching these guys could throw a absolutely new world of possibilities for me, and it did. And beyond that, as I stay connected with my club cricket in Chennai, if I felt like there's something that triggered my head and that I wanted to try, I could just go out and try it in a league game of cricket, and nobody was watching me. And since I developed that courage to be able to execute that there, I kept that with me very organically to say, this is who I am going to be. I'm not going to, fall into the same box. Of course, I got criticized a lot for that, but criticism hardly bogged me down. For me, it was about, to be very honest with you, I think if this sticking mind doesn't give, the game didn't give the avenue for me to do that, I would have lost interest in the game a long time ago. And that is probably the one thing that keeps me going. And I try and keep on doing something. And when I'm rooted to what happens in Chennai with the local game, it gives me a very incisive idea into what the game is actually moving into. Like, people don't want to play the longer format anymore. They're looking at slogging the first ball. So if that's the mindset, like you're seeing Vaibhav Suryavanshi, right? He's ready to take on the first ball. Once upon a time when T20 cricket came on, people used to, get their first run. You
Right,
want to
right,
get
yeah,
off the
yeah,
mark. That is
absolutely.
not the case anymore, and that's amazing. And if a bowler like Anil Bhai bowled, people would respect Anil Bhai the person first, play the ball. So that gave you 8 balls into the game. That's not going to happen anymore. These guys don't really bother. So if you know that mindset, it's very easy for you to adapt and keep evolving. Of course, you turned it on me. I had a train of thought to ask you the question next. No, I
No,
mean,
it's
no, you
interesting
said
because I
something.
see there's so many other things that you do. You do this YouTube channel, and you've done it even when you've been playing the game, and you know, yeah,
In fact,
you even coached the Australian team. I got sent a, I got unfortunately it was in Tamil, so that's the one I've seen about you. You speaking in Tamil with a little bit of Tamil that I understand. You coaching the Australian team in the middle of the. I'm coaching the Australian team in the middle of the Australian series of how to play spin. And I'm being seeing that, and I'm thinking, Ash, the series is not over.
Oh my God! I mean, you actually, in fact, if I knew how to do that, I would have told our boys how to play spin. I mean, why would I go and tell the Aussies how to play spin? But I mean, people who work
No, no,
under
it's
the.
okay. I'm just joking, man.
No,
It's
no, I know,
absolutely
you got
fine.
the, I know
I
you got
wish
the flag for it. You got calls from right up in the.
the flag I got was, see, Ashwin is coaching better than you are. What are you doing?
And you know what? Actually, they won the test match, didn't they?
They won the next
Then
one.
they won the next one. I'm like, oh my God. The interesting thing was Stark came and told me, I mean, he bowled a bumper and I just left it in the indoor test. I think we were 89 for 7 or something, 80 for 7.
correct.
I just left it and we went for lunch and he was walking with me. Can I tell you how to play the bouncer? Like a YouTube video. I'm like,
It's good to know Mitchell Stark knows Tamil, man.
I was really wondering because obviously it must have popped up. The thumbnail must have popped up. I gave my peace of mind to the guy who.
I can think about maybe the Australian guys got some Tamil guy to sort of.
No, there are subtitles in it.
Oh, they
That's
were?
the worst
Okay.
part.
Oh,
I mean,
okay, okay.
it was actually not about that at all.
Okay,
And
okay.
sometimes,
There was okay.
anyway, coming back to it, where were we? Yeah, your broadcasting stint, Rahul bhai. I mean, from being a broadcaster to like you said, your media work, your endorsements, all these things. How much did you explore before you came into the NCA? Because at one point of time, it was tipped that Rahul bhai is grooming the next generation, and then he went on to the senior team. How much of a switch did you make from doing all these things to becoming a coach? Did you have to do anything at all, or?
Yeah, I think you do. So of course you take your career and your learnings as your career into coaching. But I always tell people, right? I think coaching is also is completely different in a lot of ways. And the more you coach, hopefully the better you get. It's like anything. It's like with cricket, and the more cricket you play, start from a certain level. We all start at a certain level, and we kind of keep doing it. And the more experiences you have, you're potentially going to be better at it if you're willing to learn from those experiences. So I think having experience is just not enough, but having to learn from those experiences is really important. And I think that was really important. So before I really went on to do like a senior job, I was actually quite clear in my head that I wasn't actually very sure I wanted to do a senior job. I'll be very honest, with you. I didn't have that.
You came into a tricky phase. You had to deal with a lot of people.
No, it's
Like
not like
me,
I
Virat,
wasn't very, I wasn't like I hadn't thought about it in that manner. It just sort of the opportunities came up. I mean, I remember I was coaching I was doing some stuff. I was enjoying my coaching because I was doing a couple of years. I did a couple of years at Delhi as well in the IPL, and I was really enjoying that. And then when the opportunity came up to do some under 19 and India A work, and in fact, actually came up with an India A tour. Somebody asked me, would you like to kind of travel with the A team? I think it was, I don't know where he was going, with Australia or something like that. And I thought about that, and I said, wow, this seems interesting because I can just do it for a month and a half, and then I can come back, and it'll be really good. So again, it didn't it didn't have that involvement of 10 months like Indian cricket. You're completely involved. So it felt actually really nice to be able to come back into Indian cricket and do it for a short period of time. And then it so happened that 2016 World Cup, under 19 World Cup was coming up, and I still remember this because it was one of those ones. The lesson I learned was that I think I took up the job somewhere in November, and there hadn't been too much of under 19 cricket before that, and we were playing the tournament in Bangladesh in I think February or March. So we didn't have a lot of time to prepare that under 19 batch in preparation. So I was not so obsessed about the result, but it was what fascinated me about that is what are the opportunities over the next 2 years we can give the next batch of under 19 players. And so that became the exciting part of saying, okay, we've got another World Cup in 2 years' time. But it's not so much about that World Cup, but how do you sort of give enough exposure to not only just the 15 guys who are going to make the World Cup, but slightly a larger pool of kids, whether it's around 30 kids over the next 2 years. How can you give them more opportunities, right? Organize more tours and convince the board that they need to be more under 19 tours or more A tours. We need to do. It was a really nice. At one point of time, there was a really nice arrangement with Cricket Australia and Cricket South Africa, where the three A teams always played in August. We kind of really organized that well. It was actually a really good thing. Because 1 year we played in Australia, 1 year we played in India, and then 1 year we played in South Africa. So actually, we did all that three. Tried to do this concept of shadow tours. Even with the under 19s, try to rotate the players around a lot. So a lot of these things actually became quite interesting. I think they became really interesting to be a part of that process and to be a part of that planning and to work with the BCCI and the people involved in the BCCI to try and create some kind of structure around that. So it was not so much about, I want to win an under 19 World Cup or that was just the end product of the work that you put in. But what was to be really exciting to me, and I see that now, is there so many people from those years, and everyone remembers the guys who went on to play that night. It was the Rishabh Pants or the Shubman Gills or the the Abhishek Sharmas and all of that. But there were also a lot of boys who today are doing really well and playing consistently, who actually didn't make those World Cups, right? Who were there and thereabouts. I mean, whether it's a Priyansh Arya today, he was just missed out, but he was part of that. He came on played against, I remember, an under 19 tournament against South Africa. I mean, we played it last night. Anshul Kamboj was on one of our teams. Never made it to that national setup. There are quite a few names like that of kids who are now actually playing quite well and having really good careers, who actually didn't make the World Cup, but were in and around that system, or in and around that 25, 30 players who got a lot of opportunities. So I think that was the kind of, it just felt like a little bit of a natural progression to go into it. And it was certainly, again, it balanced out my family life really well for me. I mean, honestly, in a sense, I've been very grateful and I've been very lucky in life that, Vijita and the kids have always been very supportive of what I've done and allowed me to do what I've been able to do. I think it's tougher, as you know, right? It's tougher on the family in a lot of ways because you're away for such long periods of time. And, and then this seemed like you were doing it and you were doing something you loved and you were passionate about, but then you could come back and you were not
work-life balance.
Yeah, and then you kind of just decided that at this stage, then I didn't want to add on to it by doing sort of media work and commentary. And so you started making those decisions. And okay, if I'm doing this, then I'll do this, and this many number of days. And till obviously till the opportunity came up to do India, it kind of came up in a rushed manner, and it sort of, Vijita said, look, I can clearly see you're passionate about this. You're passionate about wanting to coach at a higher level. So why not give it a go for a few years? And yeah, I love doing it and enjoyed working with you guys.
In fact, your wife's retirement piece on your career and how she had to travel with that was quite legendary.
Yeah, no, I think like it's been like really, I think you're very grateful for these things, right? Because obviously she could have had a very successful career being a surgeon, and sacrificing that and raising two kids is tough, man. It's the hardest job, and and then you're not there to. It's like generally it should be a 50-50 bargain, but it's never is a 50-50 bargain, right? Let's be honest. I mean, for any sportsman, cricketers, and I think you'll be appreciative of that. It's never 50-50. And yeah, we're just lucky. And so like when you finish, and I had a long career, like 16 years. So when you finish, I've always tried to find that, but it's never been easy, and it's still not easy, right? Because in anything that you do as a cricketer and as you move out of your career, if you want to do something that you love, it unfortunately takes you away from the game. It's impossible to do a 9-to-5 job. We are not good enough. I wasn't good enough, at least. I'm sure you're good at a lot of things. So I'm sure you can do. I'm sure you'll be able to crack some amazing business
I have a
Bombay.
TNPL camp set up now, and when I say, what happens? Like when I'm saying it's an IPL camp, I look my wife straight in the eye. We've got IPL camp. When I say TNPL camp, I'm looking away, saying the TNPL camp's happening. But I don't want to look at her.
And she knows you've set up the camp.
And I can't say those guys did it.
Correct.
So I'm actually trying to relinquish my captaincy there to say that guy did it. It's not possible. But it's quite hard, Rob. For me also, to stay away from the game is really hard. I love the game as a fan, as a young boy.
I mean, if anything I can say to you is that it's something that I think is a gift you've been given, right? I think you've been given as a gift. This is a gift we're lucky to have. You had that gift and you worked very hard at it, and a way of contributing, and I think you'll just have to work out the balance. It's how to do that. But yeah, I think someone like you should honestly stay involved in the game in whatever capacity that you deem fit and you seem well. And there are many ways to do it. Like I said, there are different ways to do it, and this is a way of doing it. And no one should judge you on saying, "Oh, this is the way you should contribute to the game." It's your way of contributing to the game and what works for you in that. But yeah, I think someone like you should definitely be involved in the game.
Totally, Rahul. Actually, this is an interview that I need to take of you. I mean, it's going the other way around. But,
I've always thought of this. I've not seen your. So, like I said, I've not seen these conversations. I thought like it's maybe it's a conversation.
To be fair, I've never had to answer questions on this particular episode, okay. But I'm answering.
It's good.
Great. It's great. I'm getting the.
Yeah, you never gave
I'm getting the platform.
When we were sitting and watching matches and when I was coaching, you were never answering my questions, man.
Oh my God, that's an accusation, Rahul. That's an accusation. I should have.
You always answered them.
I should have had Vikram Rathore by this side.
Yeah, no, I would have been good.
Anyway, just coming back, Rahul. Like you didn't want to win an Under-19 World Cup. That was not the ultimate goal, but.
No, it helped winning. Not that I didn't want to. When you get into it, when you get competitive, it hurt that we lost one in 2016 in the final. So it hurts. When you coach, you want to win.
Springer took it away from you. Was it that season?
Yeah, that final game. I mean, again, it was actually really it was really good. Again, I mean, you learn so much from other people, right, and other other teams. And we get to this final, and we are clearly the most dominant Under-19 team. And the West Indies team, they figured out, like, the wickets were seaming in Bangladesh in the morning in the winter, right? It's a winter tournament in Bangladesh, and you know how it is. It's like it starts early. It seems
Mirpur is an iconic destination.
Yeah, it kind of seems around. And every game the wickets were seaming around. But what India would do is, it would seem we would lose a few wickets, we'd fight our way, and then Sarfraz or Washi or someone would get, Washi, Anmol, Preet, all these guys were a little lower down the order, would get us to 200, and then we had Avesh and Khalil and these guys, and they would knock teams over. It was easy wins. West Indies never gave us a single over a spin. They bowled 50 overs of medium pace, and it was really good tactics. And we were 145 all out, and I think like it took them 49 overs to get 145. But just like you're sitting there and saying, wow, that's really good, smart thinking from their side. So yeah, you're very competitive. I think when you start coaching, then you do become competitive. I think you can see the bigger picture also as a coach, and you must, especially when you're coaching at the junior level. But when you get into a game and the game starts, then you want to win it.
Right, but that eventually led on to a very, very famous win in 2024, all right. And now that you're sitting in front of me, a lot of coaching staff sometimes in the past, I've seen quite a lot of coaches, a lot of teams come by. They get credit where it's actually not necessary sometimes. And they get, absolutely bashed also when they don't deserve to be. But when you won the 2024...
That is exactly what coaching is. You'll get a lot of credit for...
A lot of credit when you
have to find the balance. You have to stay balanced.
But that was not the case when you and Rohit lifted that 2024 World Cup, T20 World Cup. I'll tell you why. Because I played for India for such a long time, but never have I ever sat at home and felt... Of course, you're happy when India wins because it's India. But it felt so personal. I was sitting at home. I played the 2022 World Cup. We got knocked out in Adelaide. I know the kind of effort you put in leading into the 22 World Cup, but exactly what we didn't want was the way we played that game. But then in 2024, you were able to ride along and win that World Cup. I know the kind of effort, but literally I'm not that person, but I actually shed tears for that win that you guys had. And that's probably the success of you, Rohit, and the rest of the staff. And I must commend you for that.
No, thanks. And I think, I'm glad you say that. And I'm in the end of the day, right, I think there's so many people who contribute to these things, right? They don't just these wins, and there's so much that needs to happen for a lot of these things to come right. I think the World Cup you talked about, even in Australia, right? Losing Bumrah and potentially Jadeja really at the back end of very close to the start of that tournament was not the easiest thing for us to be able to bounce back and deal with. We didn't have that many injuries leading into this particular 24. So small things like that, I think make a difference. You need a little bit of luck, you need a little bit of destiny. I truly believe that as a coach. You have to do your things right. You have to do the process right.
But what were you thinking when Klaasen had taken you apart? What was that? I know.
Actually, it happened so fast, Actually, the thing...
did it ever tell you, I've been so close. God, why can't you give this World Cup? Did it cross your mind?
I don't think that exact thought crossed my mind, but what certainly, it kind of stunned you in a sense, because I remember thinking that when Quinton de Kock was batting with Klaasen, And it was 7 hours to go, and there was that phase, and you're thinking, we need to get, Quinton out. It'll be really good to get Quinton out here, because one of the things we had discussed about South Africa was that after 6, that Janssen was playing 7, so they were a batsman light. There's no question about it. We could see that, but they'd been playing so well in the tournament that it did not really meant something. And you're thinking, if we can just at this stage get Quinton out, will mean that 7 overs of Miller, and it was still, the target was gettable, but Miller and Klaasen, you get 1 wicket and that game could change. And Arshdeep gets Quinton out, and you're thinking, wow, we are in this game. And the very next over, Klaasen kind of shifts the game completely in the favour when he hit those sixes of Akshar. So it happened so fast, where you're just on a high at a moment and thinking, wow, this is great. A couple of tight overs here, and we've got a couple of overs of Bumrah, and you're sort of thinking tactically in that point. And then suddenly at the end of the over, you're like almost stunned, and you're thinking, oh, this is crazy, and this is kind of gone, and what do we do next? And you're kind of thinking, and you're sort of thinking, okay, we need Bumrah back here. We need to, in a funny way, you are actually the fact that we always had discussed as coaches, and remember having this conversation with Rohit, that the fact that you felt that they had only 6 batsmen and Marco was their 7th batsman. Even at that point, someone said, a wicket now can maybe still give us a chance. Yeah, that was more actually the thought. To be very honest, it was not like, oh, it's gone and what. It was more like, still a wicket, yeah, let's get Bumrah back. I mean, that was the whole time. That's what Rohit did, right? Got Bumrah back, bowled a tight over, and then Hardik bowled a really good ball to get Klaasen out, and things kind of changed. And we still needed a bit of luck at the last, in the end, and Surya to take an incredible catch with 2 inches of amazing stuff, right? I think we are bowling to the shorter side with the breeze with Miller, so many things are against you, and you're still able to pull it off. So you kind of need some of that stuff to fall your way. But you're right. I think you need to put a lot of the processes in place as well, and over it, and then you just get yourself into positions that you can win these games. So
interestingly, that monkey of the back was gone, because I felt like once that monkey of the back was gone, I think we could go on to win a few ICC titles back to back, and which is what we did again in Champions Trophy. But Rohit, the captain, I felt was very special. I really enjoyed playing alongside him. Didn't have a lot of time under him, but I really enjoyed it. But I genuinely did think that he'll miss you around when you left. What was working with Rohit like, Rahul?
I think it was really good. Firstly, I think he was, the thing with Rohit that I always felt he was very, firstly, deeply cared about the team, and he was very clear about, right from the first day, I think he was very clear about how he wanted to run the team and what was important to him. And that's really important as in any relationship with a captain and a coach, and especially the way I coach is that I always like to believe that it should be the captain's team, right? I've been a player and I've been a captain as well. But a captain has to lead it in terms of the direction he wants to go in, and you have to support him and help him in that. And of course, you need to sometimes help a captain in terms of getting that clarity and understanding what is required. But with Rohit, I thought he was very clear about what he wanted from the team, how he wanted the environment to be, how he wanted the atmosphere to be, how he wanted things to run. I think he had so much of experience over the years. It really helped, right? He was very clear on those things. And for me, it was just working with him on challenging him at times on certain things, but also just working with him to ensure that, he was able to be comfortable in that space. Because I knew once he was comfortable in that space, then I think, he was going to perform and he was going to get everyone else to perform. Also, one of the things I think with him was, I think he was pretty calm. He connects really well with the team, doesn't go up and down too much, and at least he never gave me that impression. And I don't think he does. He really sort of maintains that balance and that calmness, and which is really helpful. I think there are times in Indian cricket that we needed a G-up, we needed a pick-up, and, and I thought there were times I've seen Virat really do that, really well with India, and where, I thought there were times when Indian cricket sometimes just needed a bit of a pick-up, that needed to be picked up and just maybe shaken up a little bit, and I think that sometimes there are times when, you've done that, maybe you need a bit of calmness, you need a bit of, balance in the system, and I think you have to coach or you have to captain based on what you're seeing in front of you, right? I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way in these things, and with him, I really enjoyed it, and I think more than anything, I just enjoyed sort of getting to know him as a person and chatting with him, and I think there were a lot of times our conversations, I think we were comfortable enough to be able to sit and have conversations with each other without having to talk only cricket or, just easy. It felt easy spending time in the evening with him to have a meal, and it wasn't forced, or it wasn't like, oh, we have to sit.
We'll sit and have a meeting.
Yeah, it didn't feel forced, and that was nice. It was really nice. And having seen Rohit as a young kid, and having seen him as an under-19 kid, and given him his first cap as a cricketer, to see how he grew as a person and as a leader was actually really nice. And yeah, and I think his whole strength was his ability to emotionally connect with players, and I think you saw that, you experienced that, and I think that's part of it what you enjoyed, right? And I think you enjoyed being able to talk to him and challenge him, and know that he wouldn't get upset by it.
No, I mean, there have been several times when during test matches I felt like I could be bowling, but I didn't. But never had to double guess of saying, what is Rohit thinking here? Because I knew he had everybody's welfare in mind. So he's probably thinking, see, that part of it Rohit conveyed without having to say it, if you know what I mean. And because his intent was always very clear in terms of having everybody in the right right
frame
track
of mind.
That's why that Ranchi win felt very special for me. I mean, I just felt like how he handled the team. I don't think if England had really put their mind to it, they could have had it in serious trouble in that series. But Rohit really, I felt, rallied the troops nicely. But Rahul, you've been a player when you were a little older, and but you still had a very good series in England, and I'm sure you had to reinvent yourself all the time as a player. Then you were a coach, and you had quite a few old people in the team, old guys who senior statesmen, with Virat or with Rohit or probably with me, and I don't know if I can put Jaddu in that bracket. Did you feel like you could help them out with your experiences in the past? As an old player, these are the challenges that we might have to encounter. Did you ever feel like that? And
I mean, I never went into it thinking like that. I was just thinking about,
as the situation panned out, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was more about, like, I think with a lot of the experienced players, I think it's about figuring out the kind of space that they need, and being able to give them that space in that thing. For me, like, can't teach Virat Kohli how to play a cover drive, or I'm not going to teach Virat Kohli how to bat. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's about ensuring that, we work with Virat Kohli to ensure that he's in the right frame of mind, he's enjoying his cricket, he's, really feels like he wants to commit and contribute to the team, and what makes him tick will be quite different to what makes you tick or what makes Rohit tick, and you can kind of sense that at times there are different things that people want at different stages in their career, and you've been in that position as well, right? And I think for a lot of the senior players, I think, at least I believe, that a lot of it is about being able to give them the space, right? They know what, like, you've taken 500 wickets, you know your mindset, you know what state of mind you want to get into a particular test match into, you know how you want to, you know what makes you work, right? And I think the whole thing was about respecting that and understanding that these are great players and proven performers and fantastic cricketers for India. They know what they need to do, and you just need to be able to give them some space. And of course, in a team environment, right? You can't let it just run amok. And I was lucky, right? I think it never went in that direction, and it just felt that. It's always fun. I think it's really exciting working with cricket teams are fun, and that's why coaching is fun, because you work with some really experienced senior players, and then you work with the Gills and some of the younger guys coming through the system. There are guys in the middle who are kind of like there was KL and there was Shreyas in that group, and Booms and all of these guys who are right. Almost you think at sort of the middle phase in their careers,
potentially take the
team forward. So there are different kind of conversations you're having with a different set of people, but I think it was like, I think, when I think about like the names that you mentioned, whether it's Rohit, Virat, yourself, Jaddu, you had Puji in that, you had Jinx in that, and Nishant Sharma. I mean, it's been a phenomenal era of Indian cricket, right? I think the dominance that India has had over the last 15 years in all formats of the game. And I think so many of you have contributed to that, and I mentioned that a lot of times. And I think when I spoke to you guys, it's been really special to watch it from outside, but then to be involved in it for a few years and to be able to see how you guys function, and the level of professionalism, the level of commitment to the game, the level of ability to handle the kind of pressure that is involved in Indian cricket today compared to some of the times earlier. And I don't like comparing eras. I mean, that's not. Every era has its own successes, and I don't like saying, oh, this era was better than that era. It's because it's completely different, right? It's
actually a faux-pas, because I feel like the generations and where the game is headed dictates how you play. So the other day we were having a conversation without naming someone. Like they were talking about how Bishan Singh Bedi or Prasanna would have gone in the modern day T20 era or modern day Test cricket. It's actually irrelevant because the bats weren't as good. People didn't take you on. So they were good in their period. So there's no point in comparing.
You'd like to believe that they would have found a way.
Absolutely, that's what champions do.
Yeah, they would have found a way. And again, like a lot of people tell me, oh, the kind of like the kind of facilities that we provide to generation of cricketers today, and the kind of practices, the kind of amount of balls they're able to hit, the support they're getting, sports science, medicine, there's no way you can compare that to even 10, 15 years ago, right? And then you go even further than that. So what is the point of comparing this team with sometimes, oh no, this team would this Indian team beat, I don't know, the Indian team of 1971. I'm just
saying. The only way we know is probably to put them together and it's not possible.
It cannot, because both those teams had very different, you can't, I truly believe that the game keeps moving forward. The game keeps getting better and better. If people are running faster, if people are jumping more, so people are then playing cricket better. I mean, as simple as that. Because the facilities are improving. What they're getting to explore and to maximize their talent is much better than a generation got earlier. The next generation will have much better than that, than what this generation had. So things will always keep moving forward.
There's also a repository of knowledge that will be passed on.
Exactly. So things will only keep getting better. And it's you can't compare the two, because unless you can give the same facilities to the team of 1980s or 90s and give them the same opportunities and the same facilities, the same amount of practice, how can you compare them to someone who's... So for example, we're going to go to England now on this trip. And I know the level of preparation and the practice and the thought that would have gone into this trip. And I mean, I know the kind, when I went in 1996, right? I mean, the amount of practice we got, and before playing a test match, by the time there was no net bowlers, there's no concept of
You're out twice before you get adapted to the...
No, I remember, like, I was joking with Vikram the other day. In fact, we were joking. You're saying we went out to play Alan Donald in South Africa. Both of us were on that trip. And the typical, like in the Indian team, right, we have 4 fast bowlers, 3 fast bowlers, poor chaps. By the time they've bowled to the first 3-4 batsmen, they're tired, they can't bowl anymore. And so by the time you come to bat, which is, you're a youngster in the team, you're finding your way, you're getting to play Saurav Ganguly and Sachin Tendulkar in the nets, and next morning you're playing Alan Donald. So it's you would never think about that.
145
right,
in swinging.
Yeah. So I think a young batsman today would...
No, I need to apologize to you, Rahul. Watching that 66 all out in Durban, I used to be cursing the team. having been a player now, I totally understand how it must have been. Like, it must have been incredibly hard.
Yeah, and it was harder for the earlier generation. It was even harder, maybe. So you can only, I think, compare yourself with your peers, and you have to compete with the teams that you are playing against at that point of time, right? I mean, I didn't have to compete with, I don't have to compete with Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc, but I had to compete with a different set of bowlers, and neither does Virat have to compete against Glenn McGrath. So you have to be the best in the generation you're in, or the era that you're in, and which has been great to see. I think that, for you guys over the last 10, 12 years, how you guys have, this whole batch of guys has been able to take Indian cricket forward, and really, I think, we are every tournament we get into, the expectation that we must win now, I think is firstly is a great shift. The fact that, you have to win. I mean, and as a coach, you felt that. You felt that as a coach, right? You felt that you had to win. It was not a question of, there was no other thing. There was no second best, which is great. In a way, that adds the pressure, but it's also a reflection of how far forward we've gone.
Having said all that and done, I mean, when you guys were playing, when the best Indian, I think that's probably the best Indian era, I mean, in comparison to rest. But if you had the bowling attack that we had recently, it would have been one of the greatest sides ever to have played the game, I guess. And that's a statement I'm making. I mean, it's, again, hypothetical. We had a good batting lineup as well, no doubts. But the wickets have changed, WTC, the points, all these things.
Yeah, wickets have got tougher, Ash. I mean, I'm telling you, it's one of the things I did notice, right? I think wickets... because there's so much of a pressure on every single game as being a result game, and every single game has points.
You don't have draws anymore.
So. Yeah, because wickets have got tougher and tougher, because in our time, it was important to win a series. So you could play a 4-match series where you need 1-0, or you could win it 2-0, and there could be 2 draws and you'd be fine. So as a batsman, you got to fill your boots at times, but of course there were challenging wickets as well. But but here I think sometimes
where do you think you filled your boots the most, always? Where do you love?
Oh God, there was the playing on flat wickets was the most stressful thing, because as a 1-down batsman, when you played on a flat wicket, you knew that however flat it was, with the hard new ball, with the kookaburra or with something, it can seam. One ball can seam just enough to take your edge. Then you're watching.
You're sitting and
Then
watching.
you're sitting and watching for 2 days. Not only you're watching the other team also bat. So you didn't want to miss out on those. So that was really stressful as a top order batsman, man. But yeah, I can remember that few occasions. Oh God, watching and watching and watching. Yeah.
I had one question on analytics, but I'll just shift to the next segment, Robert. It's the Gentleman's League brought to you by Peter England. Gentleman's League. When you say Gentleman's League, there's a league of legends that's played the game, right? And if I said legend or a league of legends, who would that be for you? Because you've played with some of them, you watched some of them, you also, maybe watch the next generation. So
I think you can never compete with memory. Memory is because you like. So for me, growing up, right, Sunil Gavaskar and G.R. Vishwanath and Kapil Dev were my big heroes. Right? You put their posters on the walls in my house, and those are things that you can never compete with because they're always going to be the greatest for me, right? Because it happened in a time in my life where I was the most impressionable.
Yeah,
it's the most. You're young. It's a great time in your life, right? And it's what you gain aspiration from. It's what you get dreams from. It's who you want to become. So for you, in some ways, they will always be legends because you looked up to them and yeah. So I always tell people, right? Oh man, those were the greatest players. But in a sense,
they were.
But it's in your mind because of who you are and the memories that they bring to you and the kind of great memories that they mean to you. So for me, when I think about League of Legends, or I think for me, because as an impressionable 15, 16-year-old, as a 10-year-old kid watching Kapil Dev lift a World Cup, is something that like will always stay with me, right? For me, so he'll always be a legend. For another 10-year-old kid who was born in 2001, Mahendra Singh Dhoni lifting the World Cup he will always have that as his greatest memory. The 10-year-old boy, and he watches Mahendra Singh Dhoni hit at 6. So for him, Dhoni is always going to be the greatest legend, right? There can be many guys coming after that and who do amazing things, and they have been. But for you, in some ways, your legends, which is nice actually, which your legends stay your legends, and you always look at.
There's been a lot documented on Sunil Gavaskar and the way he batted and what a solid technique he had. But I've heard a lot about G.R. Vishwanath, but there's not enough footage that I've been able to access. What was it like watching him bat? Was he a magician? My father used to say it was just incredible.
Yeah, again, a lot of G.R. Vishwanath is again told to me through stories.
Okay.
It's not so much about actually watching him live because there wasn't
Did you get to
television.
See him bat?
I got to see him bat, but again at the back end of his career.
Okay.
So I sort of he played for India last in 82, I think. 82, yeah. 82, I think was Vichy finished. And he played Ranji Trophy till about 87. And at 87, I was a 14-year-old. And I remember, as kids, we would go to watch the Ranji team practice. So you would go and sometimes, because I played under 15 for Karnataka as a keeper, there was a coach who saw me and said, "Arey, there's no keeper. Why can you collect a few balls?" So I'm standing.
So 2003 was not an accident. It was well planned.
In terms of
making you keep wickets.
Yeah. No, it was. I kept till I was under 17. I kept a little bit. But so I remember seeing him at the back end of his career, and I remember seeing him play a couple of Ranji Trophy matches then. I didn't see him play. I mean, I saw him play an international match in Bangalore, but I don't remember much about it. I was too young. My father used to take me to these games because he loved the game, and he would take me to the Chinnaswamy Stadium when India played. But I was really young, and because there was no television, we never got to really see them. So everything like growing up in Bangalore, everything you heard of was about stories. The great contest between Venkatraghavan and GRV. Going to Tamil Nadu and playing Vasudevan and Venkatraghavan and what's his name? Sorry, I keep forgetting. VV Kumar. And you sort of, these are great stories, right? Oh, Tamil Nadu versus Karnataka, what a contest. On a turning track, Vichy did this. And then this is how Venkat got him out. And so it was like these were stories, and you heard them in the as a kid. You're walking around. So a lot of our sort of managers or people who came with us in junior teams at under 15, under 17 are people who played with Vichy or shared a dressing. So they would tell you these stories. And I was very fortunate that Vichy, G.R. Vishwanath was the first person who picked me for the Ranji side. He was a selector. And in those days, the selector doubled up as a manager with the team. He came as a manager as well. So there were a few tours early on when he travelled with us. And so it was lovely. It was lovely getting to know him. He was a lovely man. And he was a really lovely man. He was very easy to talk to. Never made you feel like he was a celebrity or a superstar, and it was brilliant. I remember some lovely conversations with him going on a train journey from Bangalore to Calcutta to play Bengal. So that's like a 48-hour journey. You first went to Madras, took a Coromandel from Madras, then went all the way to Chennai, to Calcutta in those days. But it was fantastic because you got 48 hours with G.R. Vishwanath and Syed Kirmani and all of these guys in a first-class coupe of a train journey. And, chatting and conversing and laughing and you're getting to know them. So
the kit bags flushed around all.
Kit bags all over the place, and putting a lock on the kit bags.
Imagine telling about those stories on a train to the modern day cricketers.
Exactly.
Come along. I mean, once upon a time, getting a train to play these games was a big thing, but now you fly everywhere.
Yeah. So things again have got better, have got improved. Right? How do you reconcile to that fact, right? You travel 48 hours, you get to Bengal, and the next day you play a game, right? That was how we played that game. I mean, I'll be honest, we reached, I think, in the morning I still remember, we reached Howrah station early in the morning. You practice in the afternoon, and next day you're playing a Ranji match. And it's that, and that's how everyone did it. It's not that we were different. It's everyone did that, and that's how it was.
It's just the wheel of time.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll move on to the next one, Rahul. It's time to put you on the spot.
Okay.
It's DRS with Ash. I think you would have, I don't know if you enjoyed DRS because not a lot of you cricketers in your batch enjoyed the DRS, but...
yeah, it was early days. I think I don't think we knew how to use it very well.
I have a story of Dinesh and Anil Bhai discussing on a DRS. It's quite funny. In Sri Lanka, I think you were there on the tour, right?
Yeah.
And there was a ball, Thilan Samaravira left, and it hit him on the flap. Dinesh was like, go for it.
We used to burn out our DRSs within 3 overs, I think.
He thought everything was out.
But there's one time where I've really regretted not using the DRS. So this was in England, right? And on my 2011 tour in England, and in the Edgbaston Test match, I drove Jimmy Anderson, and I heard a noise like a tuck, but I didn't feel anything on my bat. Like as a batsman, sometimes you feel it, and it was a loud noise, and I didn't feel anything on the bat.
Was it the shoelace one?
Yeah. And obviously it was noise, and Simon Toffel was a really respected and good umpire. You didn't really challenge him too much when he gave you decisions, and he kind of gave me out. And I walked to Sachin and I said, I didn't feel anything. And Sachin said, oh, big noise there, Rahul. I'm sure you smashed it. And I didn't feel anything. And I said, oh, yeah, man, maybe I was like, it's one of those things. Because I heard the noise as well. And I walked back, and the first thing I walked into the dressing room and I said, just show me the replay. I can't think. And then initially they showed you the replay, and then the commentators picked up, right, that it was that shoelace, the hard part of the shoelace that actually hit the bat and created the noise, and the ball didn't touch the bat at all. And so the one time that I could have used the DRS, it came at the back end of my career. I never used it when I should have.
It's a real-time DRS. Nobody on the show has ever done that. Like real-time DRS. Any life decisions? Probably life decisions, cricketing decisions that you made, or you just sat on it and you could have made?
Don't have many regrets, Ash. I think in a sense that I don't have regrets about decisions that I've made because I think
made peace with it.
Yeah, I've always kind of made peace with it, and I've always felt that in the knowledge that I had at that point of time, I made the decisions that I could, right? And in hindsight, people always look at hindsight and say, hey, I could have done this better, or I could have done that better. One of the things I'd say, like when I look back on, say, a fitness element of, and I liked working hard on my fitness, and I did a lot of training. I would have maybe trained a little bit differently in the early part of my career. So I think for us training, again, like when I say that, I also know that is what everyone did.
That was available then.
And exactly, that was the knowledge available, right? I did a lot of running. I just ran. I never sprinted enough. And I think I could have, done a little bit more sort of anaerobic kind of training as we know now. But again, that's again a hindsight thing, right? Now I know enough more about training and fitness
It's amazing how archaic we were in terms of knowledge.
Yeah, we were, and I think that's true. I mean, when I first started out in international cricket, right, you didn't really. That was the thing, Rick, because you felt knowledge. In the old days, like there was a saying that knowledge is power, right? And it was true because you did not have the knowledge, right? When you looked and watched other teams, because countries like Australia and England and New Zealand were more advanced in sports science and medicine. It was a much more progressive field in those days. They had the trainers. You looked at them and you knew they knew something more than you did.
Yeah.
I think what the internet has changed over the last 25 years and what India's ability to access information, the knowledge I don't think is power anymore. Everyone has the same knowledge, right? You can look up an internet, you can go to YouTube, you can see incredible videos, you can pick up knowledge from so many different sources, which was not available 25 years ago or 30 years ago when we first started. It's what you do with that knowledge has become really important, right? So it's easy to look back on things in hindsight and say, yeah, but.
So can I say interpretation of the data is a challenge rather than having the data itself?
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone has the data today. Everyone has the data. What do you make sense with that data, right? There's so much of data. In fact, I think one of the challenges sport and everything is facing is that there's so much of data being collected, but how are we actually interpreting that data? What of that data actually makes sense? And what of some of that data actually getting into that data is actually be harming you because you're trying to make sense of things which maybe you don't actually need to make sense of. You're trying to correlate too many events when sometimes things just happen by random chance and you have to respect that. And you have to, sometimes if you try and make changes for the sake of it or because you think, oh, the data is telling me something, you can actually go wrong. But again, ignoring it will be a mistake as well because it's very clear and very obvious that, there is some very, very relevant and very important data which is being collected.
Tells me how much you had to think when you were the coach. Anyway, moving on to the next one, Rahul. Slightly easier, I think. You'd ace this, I'm guessing. It's a free hit. You said you would love to have had more free hits in your career. As a coach, which youngster made you go, wow, this guy is something special? You can start from the under-19s.
I can't say one, Ash. I think it would be very unfair. Yeah, it would be very unfair to say one. I think it's like, I think that, when you looked at Rishabh for the first time, you could see that this guy was something different. In that sort of look back on that 2016 batch, Rishabh, I thought like even someone like Khalil Ahmed, he's sort of still finding his way and he's still not been able to crack the India. But I think you could, like when you saw him in under 19, you thought, wow, this kid has, he's got some ability for a young fast bowler. And then as you moved on, I mean, Shubman Gill was the pretty obvious one in the next batch along with Prithvi Shaw. Like I always say that there are many people who have discovered Shubman Gill because everywhere I went, people said, oh, Shubman Gill is player, Shubman Gill is player. And it's really true because like when you come through the Indian system, right, if you're a really special player or a good player, like say, for example, Vaibhav is now or a Matre is, there are a lot of people, and that's the good thing about the Indian system is that because there's so many coaches or they've been through so many scouts, you've been through so many systems that people, before I actually saw Shubman Gill, about 6 people had told me there's this kid called Shubman Gill. And he's a really good player, and he's that. So it's again that's so many of that. Prithvi Shaw, there was in that batch is Rian. Rian was looked always saying Sanju Samson. Yeah, when I first saw Sanju, I never worked with him, but when I first saw Sanju as an 18-year-old kid, he just looked $1 million. And you continue to see that, right? I think you can have so many names are not mentioned in this, and that would be unfair. Like I said, so it's not really. I don't think it's. Actually, a good answer to your question is, and I think the right answer to your question is, it's not one kid that makes you go wow. Actually, it's just the talent coming through the Indian system that makes you go wow. Every time, even now we're at IPL trials or you're seeing new kids coming through, it's just incredible to see the kind of talent coming through and the different places that this talent is coming through. So yeah, I think it's just the talent in Indian cricket that makes you go wow.
Putting my head on the block, we might not need 4 foreigners anymore. Looking at the way the talent's coming through.
No, I think
not suggesting, but
no, I think teams are already beginning to do that to some extent. And no, but I still think that the foreigners also add a lot to the
Of course, I'm
thing,
saying
and
the kind of talent that's coming through, you're
yeah,
like, wow.
and there's going to be talent coming through from other countries as
Sure.
well, right? I mean, I think we're seeing that as well as these leagues are becoming bigger and bigger, and there's more. Again, there's more investment in a lot of these leagues. I think especially in leagues like South Africa, now in England, as more and more investment goes into these leagues, more and more money is spent on coaching, more and more money is spent on development of young players. You will see talent coming from everywhere. Talent is not a prerogative of one set of people. Talent is only your ability to be able to provide. Talent is everywhere in every field. It's the opportunities that you get, it's the facilities that you get that allows you to explore that talent and bring that talent up. I don't think you can say like, so people of course there's a lot of talent in Mumbai cricket, but Mumbai cricket has always had a history and a system. They've always had the league cricket. They've had so many matches that they play. It's allowed that talent to flower. So there was a time when only Mumbai won, right? I mean, much before a time, Mumbai won 15 Ranji trophies in a row, 16 Ranji. It's not that there was no other talent in other places. I mean, growing up in Bangalore, you grew up on one turf wicket, which was in the stadium. You never no access to turf wicket. So as facilities have improved all over the country, you're seeing talent emerge from everywhere.
Yeah.
So talent is there. It's just, and you'll see that from other countries as well.
I hope I get an answer in really a singular term, this or that. Who gave you more headaches as a coach, the under-19 boys or the senior team? You're not circumventing that.
I can see the headline. I can see the headline.
You can't take the discipline route. You can't
No.
take the discipline route because under-19 boys are going to be a bit here and there. So
The consequences of winning and losing are more with the national team. So yeah.
they gave you more headaches. A moment that you consider a landmark in your captaincy career?
I think winning in England in 2007, winning in the West Indies as well. Of a tight series and going to Kingston in 2006 and series on the line, knowing we should have won
Was it the series where Zach bowled a bumper to Cuffy and you got the first win at Trinidad? Was it that same?
No. That was in 2000. That was earlier.
Okay.
In 2006-07, we played a series against the West Indies and we dominated the whole series. And we get to the last Test match on a difficult wicket in Kingston and in Jamaica, and anything could happen. You could see that it was a dodgy wicket and it was not easy. And to be able to win that Test match and to put in a couple of good performances, I thought was a pretty good place to be in.
Right. Who was the toughest bowler you faced, Rahul, in your career? Like, who gave you troubles?
I'd say as a fast bowler, it would have to be Glenn McGrath. I thought McGrath was I kind of played Wasim and Waqar at the back end of their careers, so it's not fair to kind of think like. People who played them early on said Wasim was in a different league, and I can imagine seeing videos of it. But I played him at the back end of his career, and he was really good. He was damn good. But I played McGrath, I think, at his peak, and he was a phenomenal bowler. Probably challenged my off stump more than anyone ever did. Just being able to go close to the stumps and get the bounce, and just a level of fitness, and he was able to come at you right through the whole day. Played faster bowlers than him. But in terms of just consistency and skill, I thought he was, for me at least, the toughest bowler that I played. As a spinner, I think Muralitharan was the best bowler that I played against. As a spinner, I think great skill, ability to spin the ball both ways, especially then he went around the wicket and he sort of started taking the doosra away from you. I think, again, someone who never tired, bowled long overs, just kept at you. So, I think he was a phenomenal spinner. Muralitharan was a great spinner.
If you could relive one Test match from your career, what would it be?
Relive one Test match from my career. I'd like to relive one that everyone would try to relive one they've won. I'd like to relive one that I've lost, and can I change the narrative?
Sure, you could have done that in the previous segment, but yeah, you can do that here.
I mean, the Test match in Barbados, I think on my first trip in 1997, we were chasing 120 to win the game.
Was it Barbados? Okay.
It was Barbados. And
the one where we got bowled out for 80 or 90.
80, yeah. And I just, we gave 40, 50 runs, I think, to the last pair in that game. So we got, I think it was... I remember
Bishop or Walsh.
It was Walsh and somebody. Walsh and Clayton Lambert. No. I don't know who it was at the back end who got them like the last couple of pair wickets added. on a difficult wicket, their last couple of pairs added some 50, 60 runs. And
It's a nightmare of a pitch. That.
yeah, and then we had to chase 120 and we were out for 80. I wish because the series was decided 1-0. The funny thing was that whole series we played 5 test matches, and because of rain and draws and all of that, the whole series was decided 1-0. So if we had won that test match, we would actually won that series. So yeah, that's an early one, part of my early sort of one in my career where I wish we could have relived that. Maybe the 2003 one-day final as well. I think in South Africa we kind of won the toss and the right decision we felt because it was cloudy and it seemed around a bit and Australia batted too well to score 325. In those days, 325 was a series score. Yeah. So yeah, I wish we could have maybe changed that a bit.
Did you ever wish you had played the cricket in the T20 era, always the current one? Has it ever like you're sitting in the dugout and like if I was there, I would just tonked it.
That I was there. Tonked it. I never felt. No, I loved playing in the era that I played, Ash. I think I was very lucky. I think in some ways actually everyone actually feels their era was the best and I've always like heard. I've spoken to people like Vishy.
You coach a lot of young cricketers. They take it on, and the wrong time they might just sky it up in the air and get out. Yeah. No, that's their time to just knock it around. Do you ever feel like that?
No, not even that. 2020.
Oh my God.
Now,
right.
I think
it's truly the era of the Indranagar Kabinda.
Yeah, I've changed my mindset about how you play this T20 game. So and which is you have to adapt and you have to change. But actually, I was very lucky in my era. I think, Ash, because in some ways. And maybe everyone says that. So again, it could be just me saying it because I'm here. I always felt that like in my era there was a certain level of professionalism that came into the game. There was certainly more money from like India opened up in the 1990s, in the early 90s, which meant that there was a lot of foreign companies that came in, the Reeboks of the world, the Pepsis of the world, your sort of tech companies, you could see how advertising and sort of making a living of the game became a lot easier. It wasn't easy when we started, but certainly as my career progressed, I could see it was becoming easier to be able to make a living of the game, and not only living of the game. I think just facilities started to improve. You started to get more facilities. Like I said, from being in trains. To towards the end of my career, I could just see how things had completely changed in terms of access, facilities, infrastructure. So I actually got to see a little bit. I saw a lot of that, and as I was finishing, it was this era of Instagram and Twitter and all of that coming into the picture as well, and I can only imagine the kind of pressure that sort of seems to put on young people and maybe I've never experienced it, so I don't. Maybe they just get used to it.
It is that era. You've got 2 young ones at home who are doing pretty well in their careers as cricketers.
Yeah, so there's just so much of focus and there's so much of like everyone filming what you're doing now. There's cameras everywhere. I think I could lead. We could lead actually. Like being on tour was sometimes great fun, right? Nobody was filming what you were doing. Yeah. Nobody was following you. Nobody was putting up videos of you and capturing them because there was no phone cameras. So I think I feel I was like really lucky that I got to see a little bit of the plus side of the economy and the world and cricket changing and Indian cricket changing. But maybe some of the negatives, what I think are negatives, I never had to experience too much. It just happened at the back end of my career. I got to experience all the 3 formats of the game. I love being Test cricket. I wanted to be a Test cricketer. That is what I wanted to do. I saw the growth of one-day cricket. One-day cricket really exploded after sort of, again, like television and white ball cricket and day-night cricket through the 90s. And then I saw the start of T20 cricket. So I a lot of feel that my generation, or I was really lucky that I got to see all
Totally agree, because I was that impressionable boy when you guys were playing.
Yeah, so it's...
Agree. Who's the best captain you played under, always?
Oh, tough one. Yeah. I mean, really tough one. To answer each one did it in their own way. I kind of,
you can pick a Karnataka skipper.
No, I sort of really enjoyed playing cricket under VB Chandrasekhar. I thought VB, because again, I was at a really impressionable age in my career and I learned a lot from VB playing league cricket in Tamil Nadu. And I just enjoyed the way he went about things and his competitiveness and his desire to win. And so yeah, so I think VB was someone I really sort of was one of those early captains that I kind of enjoyed working with. I thought Dhoni was really good. I think, at the back end, the way he managed, not an easy transition for him, I think, from being a young man captaining the kind of guys that they were. I thought he did that really well. Yeah, I'd say, a couple of these guys. Saurav was, in his own way, I think Saurav brought a lot to Indian cricket by being very clear about wanting to win, very clear of what it takes to win. So, yeah, I'm grateful for a lot of these guys. I was enjoyed. Anil was really good as well. I think Anil was very clear about his communication, what he wanted from you. Yeah, so I think each one picked up stuff. Yeah, each one had their own strengths. It's the same thing with a lot of the coaches that you worked with. I think everyone has their own kind of things.
VB came out of the box, and I agree with you. I had some interactions with him.
Yeah, no, he was a lovely man.
Yeah. Your all-time favorite movie, the last film you watched in theatre?
The last film I watched in theatre, I think I saw the Drishyam movie into...
The Malayalam one?
No, the Hindi one.
Hindi one. Okay.
Hindi one. So me and Vijita went on a weekday, and it was actually quite funny. It was the theatre, and there was only 2 of us. So
I think we're coming to the end of the theatre era as well.
It was this private. It was like not a private screening. We thought we just go on a weekday for a morning show in the mall near our house. And we rock up there, and there's only 2 of us. So I was like thinking, are they going to actually play it or not?
People are not morning people anymore.
Yeah, it was a perfect time to go. So it's just me and Vijita. The kids are going to school. I think it's just me and Vijita in the theatre. We said, "This is wow.
You went on a blind date.
See what I've organized for you. I've organized a private screening. You don't know this."
Right. Songs from which artist or band do you listen to the most?
Oh, I'm very old school in that sense. I grew up listening to a lot of 70s folk rock. So a lot of Springsteen and Dylan, Joni Mitchell. I'm that era. That's what I listened to in college, right? So I think in college, when we were growing up, that was the music. Your Jethro Tull. So some ways, of course, I love the new stuff and what's happening. I love Ed Sheeran. There's a lot of that on my thing. So yeah, so I'm more I'd say words mean a lot to me. So I think lyrics, yeah. So the lyrics must resonate with you. I'm that kind of guy. So yeah. So Van Morrison. So these are kind of guys that I think growing up, if you were in college in my era, this is what you listen to, or this is what the kids listen to, and kind of somehow stayed with me.
Right. Although you're not on Instagram, you're not on Twitter. It's the trend. You need to be a coach father. Every kid that's coming through has a coach who's their father, and I mean that's really
being a father. Formula, being a father is tough enough, man. So I think you got to figure out what you can try and do.
It's a success formula.
I think for me, in the end, you want to have a good relation. You want to be able to sit down with your kids. I think in a sense, my dad loved cricket, but he never coached me, right? I don't think he played enough. He played a little bit of university cricket, but I think he kind of drew that line of never coaching me and never sort of, he was one of those guys who, and I know how passionate your father and your parents are. And
you had the privilege of watching.
I've had the privilege of watching a cricket match with them and really enjoyed it, I must say. But I really love their passion for the game, and I can imagine how much your success must have meant to them, and I think it's great. And I think for you as a son, I think, what you've been able to do with your hard work and your perseverance and, with the support of so many people is bring real joy to your parents, right? By seeing you play cricket and do what you achieved. I think, in some ways it's brought them great joy. So which is a great thing you've done, and I think it's fantastic. So for me, as well as for my father, for me to play cricket, and I know what joy it brought him because he loved cricket and he was loved cricket. He was one of those transistor radio, and that's my earliest memories of my father, right? Of both of us on the transistor radio and listening to Gavaskar bat in the West Indies. And he went to the UK on a work visit, and he had this video, and I still have that photograph. He has this photograph of him at Lord's. In the old days, you were allowed to, when there was a county game going on, you could walk onto the stadium and they would allow you to take a picture on the pitch. So there's this photo of him as a young man on the pitch at Lord's and the background of the stadium, of the pavilion. And he showed this to me as a kid, this is the great grounds, and I wish one day you play there and it'll be great and all that. And I did, and so I took a photograph exactly at the same place, doing exactly the same thing.
God, okay.
And so I have this
So
photograph.
you have the album ready for Instagram. It's just that you need to come on it.
Yeah,
So.
no, there's not one to be shared, but but it's a lovely one. And I think I think that's so the same thing with my kids. I don't really try and get too involved, but yeah, I think as they're getting older, then they're asking you questions and you're maybe answering a few things.
That's an end on free hit, Rahul. I've never bowled a carom ball on the show, but I want to bowl that. What is this with this Indra Nagar ka Gunda thing, Rahul? Like, it became a campaign. You play cricket, you break your leg. I see you one fine morning, I wake up and you're on the road fighting with an auto wala for having.
This is the problem I have with cameras.
Who's Rahul Dravid actually? Is he been able to cover that Gunda side? And were you ever a part of any mafias in Mumbai or something?
I wish I was, man. It would have been cooler. No? It would have been nicer to say that. I wish I could say that I was part of this underworld or something.
I really wish the brand got it wrong.
I'm actually this kind of.
The brand got it wrong. This video should have directly gone as the ad. Instead of you making that ad, it's so natural, yeah. And the auto wala was shivering.
No, what shivering? He was having a go at me. I don't think he recognized who I was. The thing is, now that I've retired for so long, a lot of people don't recognize you, so they still have a go at you. So then somebody else has to tell them, hey, that's Rahul Dravid. Okay.
Imagine the embarrassment.
That's exactly what happened. That guy's looking, somebody else had to tell him that no one is. Oh, okay. Then he was a bit more mellow on me. So both of us are having this. No, it's Bangalore traffic. Can I blame Bangalore traffic for being so bumper to bumper that my wife's blaming my driving, but I'm blaming Bangalore traffic.
Right. I mean, I don't know how to end this, but I'll have to. So this episode has been truly memorable, and I must say it didn't feel like an interview at all. And generally, I don't try to keep it like that. Try and keep it as casual as possible, but this was really, really enjoyable. I know I just asked for a little bit of time, but the time is exceeded, and that's not because of me. Let me put that as a disclaimer.
No, absolutely, I've enjoyed it as well, and it's been a lot more relaxed than some of our intense conversations while watching cricket, which I've really enjoyed and loved as well. But and that was a fun part of coaching. I think having these conversations with people like you and Virat and Rohit, and and just I think that's the fun part of coaching, right? When you're having conversations and about the game and this has been one of them. I've really enjoyed it. It's been great fun, and it's great to see what you're doing, and well done.
That unfortunately is an end of this episode of Kutti Stories with Ash, brought to you by Peter England and travel partners Thomas Cook. Thank you all.